Princess Lyra of the Luminara star system floated above the gleaming city of her homeworld, her arms crossed, her violet eyes narrowing at the holoscreen in front of her. The screen displayed a small blue and green planet far away, one that she had never bothered to visit but had studied out of sheer necessity. Earth. Lyra hated Earth. She hated its chaos, its unpredictability, and most of all, its people. Humans, she had concluded long ago, were messy, weak, and hopelessly primitive. They spent their days chasing money, meaningless games, and fleeting emotions. The idea that someone from such a planet could ever compare to a Luminara noble was laughable. Yet here she was, being forced to pay attention. The reason was a will, not just any will, but the legendary galactic will of Queen Seraphine, Lyra's great-grandparent, the ruler who had once united countless star systems under a single vision of peace and prosperity. That will, Lyra had been told countless times, was complicated, unpredictable, and, worst of all, included a clause that no Luminara had been able to fully comprehend. It allowed a human to inherit her family's domain. Lyra's jaw tightened. A human inheriting the Luminara star system? Preposterous, insulting, outrageous. She had spent weeks preparing her rebuttal, planning the exact words she would use to reject any human's claim. But as the messenger drone buzzed to life before her, Lyra felt a flicker of curiosity she didn't want to admit. Princess Lyra, a calm voice intoned. The holographic figure of an alien envoy appeared, dressed in ceremonial robes. We have confirmed the identity of the Earthborn heir of the galactic will. Lyra rolled her eyes. And, the envoy's glow brightened, his name is Alexander Stone. He lives on Earth in a city called New Haven. He is unaware of his inheritance and possesses no experience with galactic governance. Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. Exactly as I predicted. I will not waste my time with him. Princess, the envoy said cautiously, the will states that the heir must be presented with the opportunity to claim the inheritance. You cannot interfere directly in denial. Lyra groaned. The bureaucracy of the galactic aristocracy was as suffocating as it was precise. Humans were already meddling in her plans, and now she had no choice but to watch one of them stumble through her family's legacy. Meanwhile, on Earth, Alexander Stone lived an ordinary life. He worked in a small tech repair shop, his apartment cluttered with gadgets and half-finished projects. Life was quiet and predictable, until the day the universe decided it would not let him remain ordinary. It started with a knock at the door. A bright humming light filled his small apartment, and before Alex could react, a figure shimmered into view. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, elegant, with glowing blue skin and eyes that shone like stars. Hello, Alex stammered, stepping back. What are you? I am Envoy Kalara of the Luminara star system, the figure said. You, Alexander Stone, are the heir of the galactic will of Queen Seraphine. Alex blinked. He thought it was a joke, maybe some kind of prank for the internet. Heir what? You have inherited the Luminara star system, Kalara repeated, voice calm and firm. It is your right to claim the inheritance. You must travel to Luminara to begin your responsibilities. Alex sank into his chair. Wait, you're saying me, a normal human, gets to rule an entire star system? Yes, Kalara said simply. By the decision of the late Queen Seraphine. Alex laughed nervously, rubbing his forehead. This has to be some kind of mistake. On Luminara, Princess Lyra was watching Alex through her observation array. At first, she had expected him to flounder, to panic, to reject the inheritance in ignorance. But as she observed, she noticed something unusual. Alex was thinking. He was trying to understand, asking questions, and even suggesting ideas that were remarkable. Lyra narrowed her eyes. She did not like this. Humans were supposed to be simple, flawed, weak. Yet this one seemed different. Days passed as Alex prepared for his journey. He received lessons in galactic customs, interstellar law, and the language of the Luminara. It was overwhelming, and he often made mistakes, but he was determined. Every question he asked was driven by curiosity, every hesitation by caution. He was human, but not ordinary. Lyra, meanwhile, had a choice to make. She could allow Alex to travel alone, leaving him vulnerable to rival factions eager to seize the inheritance. Or she could intervene as her pride and responsibility demanded. She chose intervention. Lyra appeared in orbit above Earth, her starship shimmering with energy. To humans it looked like a falling star at first, but then it grew larger, revealing the elegance of alien architecture. Alex watched from the ground, awe and fear mixing in equal measure. "You," Lyra said, stepping onto the observation deck of her own ship. Her violet eyes glinted. "You are unexpectedly competent," Alex swallowed hard. I'm just trying to do what's right." Lyra's lips twitched, almost like a smile. She hated admitting it, but she felt respect for the human, yet she would never say it out loud. Not now, not ever. Before Alex could respond, a warning alarm sounded. The ship's sensors picked up multiple hostile ships approaching from deep space. A rival faction had learned of the inheritance and was moving to seize it. They were ruthless, efficient, and utterly determined to claim the Luminara star system for themselves. Lyra's hands flew across the controls, her mind racing. She had underestimated the human, not his worth, but the danger he was in. Her pride demanded that she protect the heir, but a part of her, one she refused to acknowledge, also wanted to see him rise to the challenge. The rival ships fired first, energy beams slicing through space. Lyra's starship glowed brighter, shields shimmering as she countered the attack with precision maneuvers. Alex clung to the observation deck, trying to understand what was happening. It was terrifying, beautiful, and completely beyond anything he had imagined. "Stay calm," Lyra said sharply, noticing his panic. "Watch and learn. This is not Earth. This is the galaxy." As the battle raged in orbit, Alex realized something important. Humans, with all their flaws, had something no alien race could replicate: adaptability, ingenuity, and moral courage. The way he processed the danger, finding small creative solutions even in chaos, reminded Lyra that sometimes the greatest strength came from unexpected sources. By the time the attackers were repelled, Alex had proven himself in his first real challenge. Lyra looked at him, a flicker of admiration in her eyes, though she would never call it that. "You survived," she said. "Impressive. But this is only the beginning. The Galactic will has many tests ahead, and I will be watching closely." Alex nodded, still shaken but determined. "And I want to learn. I want to do right by this inheritance." Lyra stared at him silently for a long moment. In her mind, she was still the proud princess of a star system that had survived for millennia. But she could not ignore the truth. This human, this flawed, messy, earthborn human, had potential she had never expected. And as the stars stretched endlessly around them, Lyra realized something even more surprising. Maybe, just maybe, she had misjudged Earth entirely. The battle for the inheritance, the test of worthiness, and the unexpected lessons about humanity had only just begun. And in that moment, a new journey for both Lyra and Alex had begun. A journey that would challenge prejudices, spark unlikely alliances, and reshape the future of an entire star system. The twin suns of Luminara rose like twin flames over a sky of silver clouds. It was Alex's first morning on another world. He stood at the edge of the palace balcony, staring out at floating gardens, crystal spires, and rivers of light. The air shimmered with energy, carrying the scent of unknown flowers. It was beautiful, almost unreal. Behind him, Princess Lyra watched silently. Her face was calm, but her mind was restless. She still could not understand how a simple human like him had survived the attack on the journey. He had no combat training, no royal education, no experience with galactic matters. Yet he had stood his ground with courage that even seasoned soldiers lacked. Lyra folded her arms. "You should not get comfortable," she said coldly. "The tests have not begun yet." Alex turned around, smiling slightly. "I figured. You don't strike me as the type who gives out free victories." Her lips twitched. "Correct." They walked together down the grand hallway. Every step Alex took echoed against walls lined with ancient murals showing Luminara's long history. The rise of star empires, the discovery of light energy, the coronation of Queen Seraphine. Alex could feel the weight of thousands of years pressing down on him. How could he, a human from Earth, be worthy of this? Lyra's voice broke the silence. Queen Seraphine's will was no ordinary inheritance. It was a test, one meant to find a successor who understood not just strength but compassion. "You will face 3 trials. If you fail, the inheritance goes to the rival houses." Alex nodded. "What are these trials?" "The first," Lyra said, "is diplomacy, to speak before the Galactic Council and win their trust. The second is strategy, to defend Luminara from a simulated invasion. And the last is judgment, to decide between two paths that will shape the galaxy's future. Alex exhaled slowly. No pressure then. Lyra almost smiled again. You humans have strange humor. The first trial, diplomacy. The council chamber of Luminara was filled with light and sound. Dozens of alien delegates sat in a circle, each representing a different world. Some were made of crystal and shimmered as they moved. Others looked like living plants, their leaves rustling as they whispered. All of them stared at the human standing before them. Alex cleared his throat. He had rehearsed this speech for hours, but his hands still trembled. He took a deep breath and began. Honorable council members, he said. I know I come from a small planet far away, one that many of you see as primitive. But humans have one strength that I believe the galaxy needs, the ability to learn, adapt, and grow from failure. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some nodded. Others looked skeptical. Alex continued. On Earth, we built civilizations from dust. We made mistakes, yes, but we learned. Every generation became stronger, wiser, kinder. If I inherit this star system, I won't rule it as a king. I'll serve it as a student who keeps learning. Lyra watched from the side, her expression unreadable. She had expected Alex to speak nervously or boast foolishly. Instead, he spoke with honesty. There was no arrogance in his words, only sincerity. The council members noticed that too. An old crystalline alien stood up. You speak of service, it said in a melodic voice. Would you serve even those who doubt you? Yes, Alex said firmly. Because trust is not given. It's earned. There was silence. Then slowly, applause began to echo through the chamber. First from one delegate, then another. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. He had done it. The first trial was complete. When they left the chamber, Lyra finally spoke. You surprised them, Alex smiled. Did I surprise you? She hesitated. A little. The second trial. Strategy days later, the second trial began. Lyra stood beside Alex on the command deck of a training cruiser. The holographic display showed hundreds of red enemy ships approaching. This was a simulation, but it felt real. Every explosion, every alarm, every risk. Lyra crossed her arms. This test measures your ability to lead under pressure. You may command the fleet as you wish. Alex studied the map. The enemy ships were faster and larger. A direct attack would fail. He thought for a long moment, then looked at Lyra. You said these simulations use real energy patterns, right? Can we change the environment? Lyra frowned. Yes, but then reroute the plasma rivers near the nebula. We'll use the magnetic currents to trap them. Her eyes widened slightly. That's dangerous. Only if we hesitate, Alex said. Trust me, Lyra hesitated. But something in his tone, calm, steady, confident, made her nod. Do it. The human-led fleet moved into position. As the enemy ships approached, Alex triggered the plasma currents. Streams of glowing energy erupted from the nebula, forming a twisting maze of light. The enemy ships flew into it, confused, and their sensors failed. Then, with perfect timing, Alex gave the order. Fire! Blue light flashed across the void. The enemy fleet vanished in a burst of brilliance. The simulation ended. The command deck fell silent. The system announced, Trial 2 passed. Lyra stared at the screen, speechless. She turned toward Alex, who looked both exhausted and amazed. How did you know that would work? She asked quietly. He shrugged. On Earth, I used to fix machines that overheated all the time. I just thought, if you can control heat, you can control the outcome. For a moment, Lyra didn't reply. Then softly she said, You think like no one I've ever met. Alex smiled faintly. That's because I'm human. Lyra didn't respond. But deep inside, her thoughts had changed. Humans, she realized, were not as weak or chaotic as she had once believed. They were creative, dangerously creative. The third trial, judgment, the final trial was the hardest. The council brought forth two holographic paths. One represented order, strict control, peace maintained through surveillance and obedience. The other represented freedom, unpredictable, chaotic, but full of life and innovation. Lyra and Alex stood together before the projection. You must choose, the council announced. One path will define the next era of the galaxy. Lyra expected Alex to choose order. Most logical minds would. But he stood quietly, thinking for a long time. Finally, he spoke. When I was young, he said softly, I watched people on Earth argue, fail, and rebuild again. It was messy, but it was real. We grew not because of control, but because of freedom. He turned to Lyra. A world without mistakes never learns. A world without freedom never changes. Lyra stared at him, her heart conflicted. For centuries, her people had valued perfection and order above all else, but she couldn't deny the truth in his words. The galaxy had grown stagnant under perfect control. Alex stepped forward. I choose freedom. Gasps filled the chamber. The holographic projection shimmered, then transformed into a radiant burst of light that spread across the sky. The council members bowed their heads in respect. Queen Seraphine's voice echoed through the hall, a recorded message left long ago. To the one who understands the heart of life, compassion, courage, and the strength to forgive, you are worthy of my legacy. Lyra's eyes softened. For the first time, she bowed slightly before Alex. You have done what no one else could. You passed the will. Alex looked stunned. So it's over? Lyra smiled faintly. It's just beginning. A new alliance weeks later, the galaxy changed. Under Alex's guidance, the Luminara star system opened communication with other worlds that had long been isolated. Trade, knowledge, and ideas flowed freely. Humans were invited to join the Galactic Alliance for the first time. Lyra watched all this from her palace balcony. She no longer looked at Earth with contempt. She thought about its people, their humor, their mistakes, their hope. She understood now why her great-grandparent had chosen to test humanity. It was not about power. It was about heart. One evening, she found Alex sitting on the same balcony watching the stars. You did well today, she said. The new trade routes are working. He smiled. Couldn't have done it without your help. Lyra tilted her head. You speak as if I had a choice. You always have a choice, Alex said gently. That's what makes you, you. She looked at him for a long moment, then turned her gaze to the stars. You humans, she said quietly, are impossible to predict. That's what keeps life interesting, he replied. Lyra laughed softly, a sound no one in the palace had heard before. It was light and sincere, the return of shadows, but peace never lasted long. One night, an urgent message arrived from the outer colonies. A new threat was rising, an unknown fleet older than any recorded civilization. The symbols on their ships matched ancient markings hidden deep beneath Luminara's capital. Lyra and Alex stood together in the war chamber, staring at the projection. These symbols, Lyra whispered. They're from the precursor age, before even Queen Seraphine. Alex frowned. So, this isn't over. Lyra turned toward him. No, but this time we face it together. He nodded. Together. The room glowed with the faint hum of the galaxy's pulse. The princess who once hated Earth now trusted a human with her people's future. And the human who once thought himself ordinary now stood ready to defend a world among the stars. Epilogue. Hope between worlds months later. On Earth, the night sky shimmered with faint lines of light, trade ships passing between systems. Humanity had become part of something far greater. Children looked up at the stars and dreamed of visiting worlds beyond imagination, where pride on